This is another case study in Jaimini astrology using the chart of Angelina Jolie. Today I'm going to look at the Atmakarika and the other Charakarikas, as well as the dasha system called the Chara dasa. And here I'm going to actually show you a dasha system that's used in Jaimini called the Chara dasa. It's probably the most well-known dasha, and it's based on signs. It's not based on the nakshatra of the moon. It's not based on planets. It's based on rashis, and you calculate it by counting the number of signs from the sign to its ruler, and similar to the way we calculated the pada. You calculate the Chara dasa. If it's a masculine sign, you go forward. If it's a feminine sign, you go backward. For example, you can see there's 11 years of this Aries Chara dasa, because from Aries there's 11 signs, or no, there's 12 signs. Yeah, 12 years to Mars here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12. So, and then I think you subtract 1. It's a bit of a formula. I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. I believe it's forward and then you subtract 1, and then if it's feminine, it's backward and then you add 1, I think. I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, so this is why each dasha length in the Jaimini system, the Chara dasa, they're actually different lengths according to the chart that you're looking at. It's not uniform like in Vimshotri dasha. Right, Ketu is 7, Venus is 20, Sun is 6, Moon is 10. In Chara dasa, it depends on the factors that I just gave you, how long each dasha is. So again, it makes it very dynamic, and it's quite predictive. We can see that she went into her Chara dasa, which was the Aries Chara dasa, in 1992, and this showed when she became successful in her career. This is a time when she became successful in her work, and we can see that the Aries Chara dasa is in the 10th from her ascendant, meaning Aries is in the 10th from her ascendant. It's ruled by Mars, which is forming these yogas in the 12th from Aries, but it's also in the, when you're reading Mars and Aries indicators in her chart, they're very powerful because the ruler is in the 9th with the Lagna Lord and Jupiter. So again, we would expect that her Aries Chara dasa would be very powerful because Mars is forming all these yogas. Mars is the ruler. There's no planets in the sign, but it's quite powerful. When we look at the harmonic chart and we look at that sign in the harmonic chart, well, look at this. Her Aries Chara dasa, we would expect to be very powerful. Look at the Dashamsha chart. The ascendant is Aries, and Mars is in the ascendant with Venus. Good Lord, that's extremely powerful. So from June 1992 until her Pisces dasha in June 2003, she was in Aries Chara dasa. We would expect that her career would just be, really quite good at that time, because of Aries. And it's then of course it's all these qualities of Aries, which is about initiating and starting things. Of course it wasn't great the entire time, but by the end of it she was an international superstar, right? And then she goes into Pisces dasha in 2003. Now again, when we look in the Rashi chart, everything revolves around the Rashi chart, just like you would expect. And again, if we're also applying, using the Karakamsha principle that we just learned, reading things from the Atmakarika, then that Aries was, powerful because of the Raj Yogas with the ruler, and powerful in the Dasamsha, but it's eighth from the Karakamsha. So there's going to be a lot of changes and ups and downs and breaks and changes during that Aries Chara dasa, as shown by the fact that Aries is the 8th from the Karakamsha. Again, Karakamsha is the Atmakarika from the Navamsha, read from the Rashi chart. So one thing we want to be doing when we're looking at all these Jaimini indicators in the Rashi chart is we want to be using the Kara-Kamsha to also read indicators. So even though there was ultimately success, there were more obstacles and breaks and changes and ups and downs than we might expect using Chara dasa, because when you read it from the Kara-Kamsha, Aries is the 8th from the Kara-Kamsha. Now what happens when she goes into the Pisces dasha, the Pisces Chara dasa in 2003? Well, when you read the Pisces Chara dasa, when you read it from the Kara-Kamsha, it's in the 7th house, Jupiter, Moon, Mars, and obviously we have Jupiter, Moon, Mars in the 7th from the Kara-Kamsha in Pisces, which shows this emphasis on relationships, on children, obviously children, because Jupiter is the natural karaka of children, and of course all those things are still at play. Mars is the 5th lord in the chart, and there's also a change in relationships. She was alone by herself for a certain portion of it, but then she also started a long-term relationship for those 12 years that she was in that dasha. And by the way, just looking at this, it's 12 years because we count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Again, to find it, we have to count backwards. Pisces, the ruler is Jupiter, and you count 12 to reach it, right? With Aries, it was in the 11th. So we see that if it would have been in the 1st, if Mars would have been in Aries, it would have been 12 years because it was one away. It was 11 years. And then it's 12 years of the Pisces Chara dasa because Jupiter is in that sign. So those 12 years really revolved around relationship and children, long-term relationship with Brad Pitt, all of that. And again, we want to look in all of the harmonic charts to see how it plays out. When we look in the Navamsha, which is the spouse chart, and we look at Pisces, well, we have Ketu there. So Ketu is in Pisces. And again, Pisces is still going to be Pisces. It's about liberation and transcendence and wanting to even kind of disappear a little bit. You saw her acting career. I mean, she could have been this huge celebrity the whole time. She's been a huge, celebrity, but a lot of that revolved around her family and all of that and some movies here and there, but not this huge, like, I'm a big movie star person. It was more family, kids, and all of that. And we can see with Ketu there, Ketu shows a kind of rejection of the world a little bit. So again, especially because we have it 7th from the Kara-Kamsha, we also see a strong emphasis on relating with others, and especially, of course, you would say a romance and a relationship. And then look, she just went into Aquarius June 2015. This is, right when she started having problems with Brad Pitt, and then eventually, not long after, she ended that. When we look at the spouse chart, look at this. When we look at Aquarius as the Chara dasa, look at where it falls in her Navamsha chart. Aquarius is in the 7th house in a Navamsha chart. And again, so it's showing the 8th lord in the 7th. So you might say, well, wouldn't it be good for relationships? It could, and it might. It's not as if, we're looking at her ending that relationship now, but we see also for the kids, again, a strong theme of children. And as it moves on, as you get into the secondary subperiods, you'll see how it eventually plays out. Jupiter is in that sign, which does bring a benefic and an inspiring spouse, but also where there could be difficulty. It is the 8th lord in the 7th, which also shows her relationship with men and things like that, and that kind of intensity. But again, we just see the shift, and this is what I wanted to bring out. Again, when we read it from the Kara-Kamsha, we see that it's the 6th from the Kara-Kamsha, Pisces is, and shows struggle, a sort of soul struggle that's going on, and a need to do the unpleasant work and the unpleasant tasks, which is, what a lot of the what seems to be a lot of the problems with the marriage was she didn't really want to do it, but there were problems, I think, with him drinking, or problems also with his relationship with her oldest son, and all kinds of stuff. So this hard work and effort, which is 6th house, was really being brought out. And when we read Pisces from the natal lagna, from Cancer, it's the 8th house. So she's running the Chara dasa of the 8th house, the 8th sign, and it's Aquarius. So this is a kind of overview of a few of these other Jaimini indicators. So again, we have these Chara karakas, or these movable karakas, rather than the fixed ones like we have in Parashara astrology. And you can use them in the harmonic charts to evaluate, people and situations. The most prominent one is the Karakamsha, which is the Atma Karaka sign in the Navamsha chart, read in the Rashi. And then reading indicators from that, particularly as they relate to other Jaimini indicators like the Chara dasa, or if you start using Rashi aspects and whatnot, which I haven't talked about, which I'll talk about in another video, it can be quite powerful. So the other thing that I really didn't mention so much, and I'll maybe do a little homework and brush up on, is bringing out a few of the specific things that are in Jaimini Sutras that relate specifically to reading the Karakamsha and reading these indicators from different harmonic charts like I was doing. Because there are also specific combinations that shows when your spouse will cheat on you, or when this or that is going on, that makes Jaimini quite predictive in that way. So again, this is just kind of a primer to show you some ways to look at it, and it's quite specific. You can see these changes, and you're also seeing me kind of dovetail it in with the Parashara astrology as well. I don't really... They are two different methodologies, but it's not like one is saying one thing, one is saying another. This is a real false choice that students get into. Well, what happens when one thing says this and one thing says that? What do you do? Which is more important? Which one overrides the other? None of that ever happens. If you're thinking, forget that. That idea is just the inability to handle complexity. That never happens in any situation. This is exactly what it is. Okay, and again, you see the Parashara astrology in a certain way, you see the Jaimini in another way. And they both show things that are equal, but shaded a little differently. And I'm going to talk a little more about that in some future videos. But, it's just like anything else. There's a whole other branch of astrology, which is called Tajika astrology, which again, also, it's just a different way of looking at things. It doesn't override anything else. It's just a different way of evaluating things based on transits and based on other methods. So this is a method, very powerful method, and it can work very well with the Parashara type astrology. I haven't taught it so much, but I am, as you can see, I'm speaking about it more because I think it has a lot to offer, and I'm going to be offering some classes to this, especially for some of my advanced astrology students, or for those of you who want to learn some of these more advanced methods. But aside from that, I'm just doing this now to expose some people to it, and I hope you enjoyed this.